Hello and welcome to episode 10 of Let's Talk Tactics. I'm your host, Zach Burrell, and I'm joined by neither Locke nor Daniel this week, but I am joined by the wonderful Mysidia Gaming, another fellow YouTube content creator. How are you doing, sir?
Great. Yeah, I'm looking at the index on warthevisioncalc.com and it's amazing.
Yeah, no, I like it. I just wish it's not all base stats. Just that's the only thing I'm going to tell everybody is keep in mind those are not base stats. It looks like it's everything from the board, master abilities, all that combined. So just grain of salt if you're going to look at your like 69 agility Katone and be like, man, she's getting all this stuff from Scion. It's like a little less. But yeah. So how are you doing? I've been trying to get you on the podcast for weeks, ever since you started doing live PvP. How has your War of the Visions experience been since then?
Well, I'm a tough guy to track down because I just have the one room in the apartment, so I'm very specific about recording times. So I apologize for that, but yeah, I'm stoked to be on the podcast. And really excited to share my live PvP experience because it started off in our guild chat, and I was for those of you that don't know, Prodigy and I are in the same guild,
Yes,
and I think
that's probably pretty relevant too. Yeah.
yeah, I think it was you that said like, hey guys, just so you know, like I think like 4 days ago the PvP change came in where you can auto in live PvP, and it kind of just went under the radar that quality of life change had happened. So a
Mhm.
bunch of us were commenting on it, and then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna start autoing in live PvP to get like a Hermes sandal, which I just made by the way.
Oh,
And
congrats.
thank you. Yeah, no, it's great. I put on Howlet early when he was low level to get him going. But yeah, so I thought, okay, I'm gonna go auto. So my first match. My opponent goes first, and right away he's manually moving his guys and like one shots one of my units, and I was like, oh crap! And then I turned auto off, and I never turned it back on. I never like I'm like I better be manual because he's manual, and then I that was it. Like at that point, I was starting to have so much fun, um, and my match experience was so varied. Like sometimes it was a guy that was so fast that their 3 units just killed my 3 units and I'd be done. And then other times, I'd be against an auto player and I'd have a lot of fun navigating around the AI. And then other times you get matched up with other manual players and um, you get to have this battle of wits. And I really started to enjoy it. I started doing it 5 times a day, sometimes extra to get practice. I
There
tapered
you
off a
go.
little bit recently because work's been picked up so much. But it's the last thing I do. I do it like in bed. I get my tablet up and I like sit out and have it like in front of me so I can do some live PvP.
Ooh, how is it on a tablet? I can't imagine. It's like so much like real estate to work with.
Yeah, well, you know what? At first it was tough, but then I just listened to you, and you were telling me you might not even remember all this advice that you give me, but I ask you a lot of questions. You told me like you got to be playing on the aerial view,
Mm-hmm.
and then as soon as I switched to the aerial view and like made myself like it, I got used to it, and now I that's how I play it, and it's fine. Once I started playing, thing is my computer is so bad that it's actually really hard sometimes to like depending on the how it's feeling on a certain day. Like I can't play very reliably on it. So it's
Right.
mainly for farming and for doing some videos and stuff.
Yeah, I almost wouldn't risk it on a computer because like there's so many ways for emulators to crash or DC or something. Like I don't want to lose a PvP
Mhm.
match because of that. I've definitely seen though, like if I watch the higher level people in Japan, they play on I think it's LD player mainly, but
Mm.
they emulator play their PvP and it's the smoothest experience I've ever seen. It's actually insane. I don't know how they do it. I've asked a couple of them about their settings, but haven't got a whole lot of info.
Yeah, well, hopefully, I'm going to upgrade at some point and get a new PC and kind of join everybody in having like computer that can actually run the game on fine settings. But until then, the tablets working fine. And um, I want to say to anybody at home there that's thinking about like, well, the aerial view kind of it doesn't look as cool.
Yeah.
Every time I didn't think about this. Every time you're using a skill, it goes back into your regular view, and you get to watch the
Mhm.
skill in all its glory. And I kept forgetting about that, and that really does make up for not getting the regular view, at least for me. So
Yeah, you don't
uh,
get to see their like 1.5 to 2 times legs going across the board, but you get to see the abilities at least. Yeah.
so I,
Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say, talking about speeds, 2 times speed is insane, and it's
It's
so
too
hard.
much. It's too much.
Like but you know what? Like when you, especially when you're not used to it, it makes you feel like you have less time on the clock.
Hmm.
But that was something really interesting during match battles, where at the beginning of them, I was panicking with my time, and at the end
Hmm.
of them, I felt like I had more than enough time. Like it was something that the game slows down. Like you always hear athletes talking about how the game slows down for them. Like
Yep.
that's what it felt like when live PvP, even on the 2 times speed, even on the fast
It's
speed.
almost like practice makes you better at things and that timer matters less. What a concept. Yeah, that's one thing I always say is like I understand that when people first start, like 30 seconds does not feel like enough at all. And again, getting that 30 seconds is step one, right? Like the first thing I think I told you was like the mechanical things, like first step, aerial view. Second step, when you start your turns, just open your abilities, close them, move once, move back, and like just get your full 30-second timer so you know how much time you have really for the rest of the turn, and then go from there. And I think that like those two things can help people improve their clock management as well as like their actual like thought time a lot. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. I think, and I think when you kind of you have to use like one team for a little bit, and then
Mhm.
it really slows down because you know what you typically do with that unit, and then you can like look at the clock and you see it ticking, and it just honestly feels slower, um, than it ever did before. But then as soon as I put like a new unit in, like when I first started using Victoria and I had to figure out jumps,
Mhm.
like it sped up again. I was like, oh my
Oh
god,
yeah.
don't have time to figure out Dragon Dive or whatever, and look at the because looking at the CT bar, that's a whole nother um, calculation to do.
Like flicking off the turn order after you like target and
Mhm.
like checked. Yeah, exactly. Like, oh shit, she's not gonna do it like immediately. I gotta go over this side and jump. Oh nope, she's not gonna do it there either. All right, come back. Buff.
Yeah, exactly, and that's why I really like doing maybe that's good for beginners too, is use calculators, use like your Orlando, use your instant speed units at first and get used to it, and then switch to your casting speed or whatever if you're really having trouble.
That's actually a good point. I've never thought of giving that advice, but that actually is pretty good advice. Use instant cast units to start, because then all you have to worry about is movement and like spacing. You don't have to worry so much about the turn clock. That's actually not a bad idea. I've never thought of that one. Thank you.
Well, I mean, it just depends like on what your goal is too, because
Sure, sure.
like when I started out, I had this I won't even want to call it an irrational fear of like I'm gonna suck at live PvP, and it's gonna be embarrassing. But then it's like no one's watching me like at all. No one like, and even maybe I have a case because someone could comment on my video and say, "Hey, Mysidia, I played you in live PvP and you sucked." But but like for the regular, like no one's gonna know, like no one's gonna call you out. You could lose a bunch of matches and it literally has no impact on anything. There's no ranking system right now. So like if you do live PvP, you have nothing to lose. So you can take your time and waste a turn and give away a match. Um, and now's the time to do it, because when that happened to me in class matches, I remember
Yeah.
I took too long on one turn and it lost me the match because I passed and my person was in a bad spot, and I was like furious. About it. I also talked to you about it on Discord, and you're like, "Yeah, you have the heat or whatever, you have the passion," because that's like a competitive environment. But
Yeah, I wanted to
uh,
touch on that actually. Now that you say that, I was gonna wait till later, but now's a good time. I know you first from the Final Fantasy trading card game
mhm,
community. I know you create content for that as well. So I know that you have that side of you where you like competing because you do all the tournaments and stuff, right? Like for the
yeah.
game. So to see that get like that switch flicked on for you, I was like, yes. I was like, that's the drive. That, like everybody has to find like you'll find it at different times, different paces for different reasons. But like it was cool to see. Like I was happy that you were angry. If that sounds messed up, but
Oh,
I
that's
was like,
good. Yeah.
the passion.
Yeah, it's the same thing when I'm coaching sports. I love it when my athletes get angry, even if it's at me, because it means they care.
Right. Exactly.
But
Yep.
you just have to like funnel the anger in a good way, because there's definitely a bad way to be
Yeah.
angry, or to be salty, or if you think um, like, this is so unfair. Everybody just turtles against me and you're so pissed off. That's not going to help you. Um, but like if you make a mistake or something and then you're pissed off and you think about why did I make that mistake? There's a learning
Right.
opportunity there. Or like, what can I do to beat turtles or whatever it is? You can still be angry, but you can recognize that there's a learning opportunity for sure. Um,
Right. And we gave props, I think the one or two podcasts ago, we gave props to someone on Reddit who had made a turtling post and then later commented on video like, "All right, guys, I tried Quicken. I was able to start beating these comps. You were right." But like,
yeah,
it was really cool to see. Like, he also was saying like, I figured out like how to solve the problem and like all the advice that kind of just finally funneled in together for that player, and it was really cool to see that. Um, yeah, man, it's definitely an experience getting into live PvP for the first time, and I completely agree. I was whenever it comes to any game that I intend on trying to do well in, obviously I'm not gonna like throw games like in any game, but like this one in particular, I was like, I want to be good at this. I waited forever to do my first live PvP matches because I was like, I don't want to lose my first matches. My like win loss ratio is gonna be bad. But then when I found out there was no win loss ratio, it was just a streak. I was like, all right, now we can play. And I completely agree what you said earlier too, where like just jump in and even play more matches than your daily 5 where you get rewards. Because if you lose a streak off of your like 5 games, yeah, your streak's over, but you can just build another streak outside of those 5 games and get back to where you were for the next day or something. But also, like honestly, the while the medals are solid, like you want your Hermes sandals, you might want a vital plat armor for one of your Drain Force users or something. Like it's still not worth stressing that much over until it's class matches. That's when you want to stress.
yeah, yeah. Oh my god.
So how
The di-
long were you? Oh, sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that, yeah, the class matches, that was when I was like, oh my god, I have to win, I have to win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long were you doing live PvP matches before the class match came out? So I forget exactly
Um,
when you actually like pulled the trigger and started doing them regularly.
yeah, that's tricky to
Approximately. I'm not asking for like it
yeah,
was at
I
this
want to
time.
say like at least like 2 or 3 weeks. And that was every night, like every single night before bed, a little live PvP. So I would say, yeah, I would say like maybe 2.5 weeks. So definitely got a lot of practice in. And uh, I'd have to say that while it like helped me on my side of doing live matches, it didn't help me for what I came up against, because you might not see the meta in free matches might not be the same as class matches. So I wasn't prepared for evade, and I wasn't prepared for as much turtling until, but then I got used to it.
And then you got out
Because
of silver and you're like, oh, people aren't turtling anymore.
yeah, yeah, and also like in the free matches, I feel like people don't have not invest they haven't invested as much time to like turtle, because
Right.
again, what's the reward for you spending your time? It's like when it comes to class matches, hey, whatever it takes to win, you gotta if you're not cheating, you're not trying, right? I mean, there's no cheating, but like that's the
Oh boy.
mentality, like take whatever edge you can get. uh,
Turn off your abilities. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
Turn off your abilities. I wasn't doing that. And then you said, "Hey, you got to turn off your abilities. It's going to take you 30 seconds, but you're going to be so happy when you get charmed." And then sure enough, there was a time I didn't do it and I was mad, and there's a time that I did do it and I was like, "Oh, thank
thank
goodness."
God. Yeah. There's actually, yeah, one of my opponents is the last day, or the second to last day. We're running Miranda, Ziza, Venera. So I was like, I know exactly what they're gonna try to do. They're gonna either rush in with evade or rush in with semi-evade charm. And like I just walked my units asses right towards them, and they're
Yeah.
all merrily trotting towards they charm. I actually that match I styled on him a little bit. I precasted fire on my own unit and it resolved after their turn. So he
Wow.
charm hit, fire hit, took a turn, holied him, dead with kill fey. And then he tried again, or he tried to like evade me because I had like low accuracy. Besides my holy user, and but then Grace just walked up into range. Was just like holy you. Just like,
Yeah.
but yeah, I didn't see a lot of charm. I think maybe 2 matches with Aziza, and then like matches with Victora existed, but they weren't like strictly trying to charm. Um,
Yeah.
Speaking of, I know you mentioned playing Victora. What was your? not class match, but just in general, what was your first team you used?
So my first team was really bad,
Oh no,
because
wait. Was it Lilith, Balo, and Mont or something?
no, I
Oh,
didn't
okay.
go like full. I didn't go full Calum, but I did have like Dario in there because I was thinking like
Okay.
I'm playing auto, so
Mm-hmm.
I have to put a tank in, and then
Okay.
I like immediately realized that tanks don't always equate like the same way as they do in auto PvP. Although that actually I do want to mention that you see all these things on Reddit. Someone's like they need to rework the hate mechanic because it's just it's a vital part of the game and it doesn't work in live PvP. First of all, that's ridiculous. It's live PvP. Like hate's not supposed to be a thing. And second of all, they said tanks have no place. But tanks do have a place. Like I've seen people with wall use them so effectively for status effects, for putting that wall forward to bait people to like, they want wall to take a couple hits so they can pounce on you or whatever
To
it is.
be
Like
a wall.
yeah, exactly. Like I think that there's like it might I don't know if it's the most effective. Like I don't know if that's true, but I think that there is a place for certain units, certain tanks in live PvP for some fun stuff. Is
Yeah.
that true or like
So tanks uses instead of being like you said, the hate doesn't work. So you have to find another use for the tank, and which is you want them to soak damage, but people can choose not to hit them. So what you do is it's map dependent. It works on both the live PvP map and also on the class match map. A little less on the class match, but I'll describe that. Where you use them as a roadblock to affect your enemy's movement, so they can't path to get to your carries. Especially, it works especially well with characters with low range. So if a unit like Fryevia, for example, most except for her LB, all of her attacks are 1 to 2 spaces in a line. She has like no crazy long range. So if you, unless she's on Green Mage, I think she might. No, she doesn't have Imperil. She has Dispel. Either way, typically her things are 1 to 2 range. Um, if you put your tank in front of her, that she only has move 3, so she has to go around the tank. And if your carries even 2 spaces behind your tank, really close, she can't hit them. So you can actually play around with based on how far. It doesn't work so well against like Ketone, Venera. People can move like 5 spaces, but if they're a move 3 unit, you can completely block their ability to get within melee range of your units, and that can be a huge tool. And that's kind of how I use my tanks. I just run in their face. So for the class match map, that was mainly used on the like height 2 square in the middle that went around. The step to get onto it.
yes,
If you stand your tank on that step or one spot above it, preferably on the step, because now it forces a height 2 difference between the bottom and the top. Now you really hamper what they can do to you, because not a lot of moves have a height 2, and if they do, they're often closer range. Now he's next to your tank, and you can use stuff like that to mess with your opponent's ranges and stuff, especially with like Sid. Like they have to Hien instead of Crush Armor because they can't hit your people on the height difference anymore. So that's how I like to use tanks in live PvP.
that's awesome. Like that's a whole nother layer of depth, that you're still utilizing their skill set. Like that's really cool.
Like you just stand there on just Sentinel on the step. It's like, well, what do I do?
Yeah.
Oh, hit him. Oh, 100 damage. Cool. But on the live PvP map, you can do it between. So like the little the fire like post things, and then like the other like pillars in the corners. There's a 1 square space there, like diagonally. You just set your person there, and now you've created like an artificial wall that you can shoot over. You can cast over. And then he just blocks their melee units from getting to you. So that's how I would use tanks in live PvP. And still make them like tanky. Or I just play Rain on full damage and one shot people because he's stupid.
Yeah. Oh my god, yeah. Rain it was honestly the MVP for me, for live PvP because I could always I felt so comfortable pushing him forward.
Hmm.
And then again, like them making the first move, and then my other units could get in the fray. But he could also jamming thrust so far
Yep.
that if they let him get too close, then he would get a big hit in. So like, yeah, he was so great that way. For me as a beginner to have someone like that.
Right. So wait, the rest of your team then. You said you used Dario, and then who were the other two?
Oh, and then Delita, who
Okay.
I think has a lot of use, but is his mobility, and with skills and with his move, like it can be it can be tricky. And then I think like Ayaka or somebody, but I like wasn't prepared at all to use them properly. So
So the old healer tank DPS comp.
yes, yeah.
Nice. So it's like a
Yeah.
guild battle team almost.
Yeah, exactly. I think that was my guild battle team at the time or something, and
I mean,
that's
it's
why I
fair
would.
though. Like if you're most comfortable with those units, that makes sense. So, what changes did you make going into class matches, and like what was sort of your mindset going into, it, and why did you make those changes?
So I definitely started using. I actually started. I didn't have Rain at first back when I started out as well. He wasn't built yet, so I was using Victora, Delita, and Ildira, and I had a lot of
Okay.
range from two of those units. And then I was always trying to use Delita to crush accessory and take away people's AP because that was so satisfying. Um,
Oh yeah.
and I think I went into it. Ended up going into live PvP with a team similar to that, but instead of Delita, I put in Rain, and I messed around a lot with the VCs. Like that's the major place I made adjustments. And things like trying to focus on magic attack to get jamming thrust up, or things like trying to stack a lot of accuracy if I come into an evade team. And I ended up trying to
Right.
find a balance. And what I ended up liking a lot was actually doing the classic um, Death Machine for the area resistance, and then the
Mhm.
Odin for the single target resistance. And then I think
Bruisers. Yeah.
exactly because I just really like surviving, and I like and then I think I had the grass flute for accuracy. I did end
The
up using
blades
that
of
quite a bit.
grass. Blades of grass.
Blades of Grass, that's the
Yeah.
one. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That although I did use the Snow White on Rain as well, because that was really good when you're coming up against a lot of obviously Slash is a given, and then
Yeah.
I there was a day where I kept running into projectile users, and I'm like, I gotta get a freaking missile
Yeah.
resist here. Um, but the oh man, I was about to say something, and now I've totally forgotten what it was. Um, for setting up my party, there was one big thing that I took away, and now I've forgotten it. So you go ahead.
So I get maybe this will help you, but talk about initial positioning. I know going back to sort of the beginning of you again, you at first weren't doing it, and then I
Hmm.
kept on saying, I'm like, again, one of those other things that takes you like 15 seconds or whatever, like just do it and see the difference. How big was that difference, even on just a live PvP map, from you going to default start? Because I know you talked about getting like one shot by other units. That typically only happens if you start default and they can just run up kill, run up kill, run up kill. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, so big because well, and that's what I was gonna. Yeah, so that's what I was gonna say is when I built really bruisery. I had some really satisfying moments where when you can see your opponent trying to check the damage on each of your units.
and then they walk back
Um,
and buff.
Yes, because they realized they can't one shot a single person, and that included Ildira. Because my party also featured a lot of barriers. So Mashery's TMR proactively used at the very beginning of the fight. Purify used proactively at the beginning of the fight. So my guys were coming in with all this VC resistance, and then they had Purify and Knight's Honor on them, and it got to this point where they had so much damage reduction that even a Sid could not one shot my Ildira, and that put
It's
people in a
impressive.
pickle, and you'd watch them struggle. And that's where the positioning is so huge because on the current live map where people can just run up and do their thing, uh, that's really tricky because when you run into a team that's just straight up faster than you lose. That's it. Like
Yeah.
there's often no way around it. Whereas in positioning, you can beat that faster team. Um,
Unless you're the beefier team. Like if you make it so they can't
yeah.
one shot any of your people, then like you can build through that. That's actually why I like doing that, because if I get matched up against like a plume team, I want to have
Mhm.
my people survive the plume. So
Yeah, and I usually can do that. It was like the Sid's running up and crush armoring my
mhm,
Ildira, and she hasn't used the TMR skill yet, so
right.
I wasn't able to apply my trademark barriers. So that's why the positioning. And again, I really wish you could like set a couple of formations ahead of time. Like that'd be
Yep.
nice.
Yep. I believe Japan actually just got that within the last
Oh,
month or
okay.
so. Why it took that long, we don't
I
know.
know.
Why, whatever. But
I also saw that Japan is getting the for class matches, auto players will prefer to get matched against auto players and manual against manual,
as
and
long as it's preferred,
and
not
not
like
mandatory.
only, yes,
Yeah,
then that
they
would be
can't.
okay.
Oh, it's so dumb. Like if it's live PvP, we
Yeah.
have a whole game mode dedicated to. We have two whole game modes out dedicated to auto PvP. So
Yeah.
Stop trying to make this one a third mode.
Yeah, it's funny. I ask people all the time. They'll like ask for advice on teams and stuff. I'm like, just clear. Are we talking about like guild battles or are we talking about like PvP? Well, guild battles is PvP. I'm like, no, it's not. It's not player versus player. You're. I understand the idea. It's a player's team versus a player's team, but you're not playing the game. Like,
Yeah,
there's a setup involved. But I'm like, PvP is mano y mano. Like that's
yeah.
um. So yeah. I ugh, I understand that I've said this before. I understand the need for having auto, but yeah, the idea that you can split up auto versus auto, manual versus manual, please don't. Please don't get me. Don't do
Well,
it.
yeah. Then it's like you've just created a fourth mode. Like
Well,
that's really
you've
what it
now
is.
created two brackets, right? Like
Yeah,
two completely different ranking systems. Like you can't compare the two.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Now, it would be interesting though. I know in the past we've talked about trying to do. We've done tournaments before, and one rule set someone suggested was, well, why don't we just do? You could change your initial positioning, but you have to let your units play on auto, and like have a whole tournament like that in the live PvP maps. I'm like, that'd be interesting actually. Like, because then it's like you kind of it's more specialized. You can see your opponent's team, make a couple tweaks, and like switch where they are, and then go for it. Um,
Yeah.
it's almost like a Pokemon battle.
Yeah. That's really cool, and it's like you have to know your units so well. Like for example, the calculators when they use resist magic or when they heal themselves, they don't move after. Like if they don't cast it on someone, like they will sit still. So like you have to have them run and cast it on someone at the beginning of a fight. And like if you forget even something as simple as that, and your unit joins the fray like a turn late, then you could
Mhm.
lose. So that is like that's I do like auto PvP a lot because there's so much thought that can go into it. And um, I see people say like you need max vision cards, and I know that like a party of max vision cards can totally trounce a party without it. But I also think, and especially in live PvP, decision making can make a big deal. But even
Mhm.
in auto PvP, your team composition, your unit matchups, like there's ways for you to beat statistically better parties than your own, and I think that's one of the coolest parts about this game because it kind of disables pay to win to a certain extent.
Yeah, and like if you're say I queue my ice team into a wind team, my whole team has Odin and Death Machine plus because it's elemental disadvantage. So like
Mhm.
that's almost like a vision card in and of itself just to have like the element matchup. So like there's a lot more to it than just the max VCs. Like yeah, if you have equal skill players and you hand one max VC and like the other one no max VCs, like okay, that's going to be the difference. But there's so many other factors that go into it like some people may be equal in terms of like overall like average skill, but like you might be better at positioning, I might be better at like quick decision making, so like that throws you off. Like there's a lot more aspects that go into it to be good at. Like nobody's the same player in the mode, which is fantastic. Like there's so many different styles. Now did you in speaking of styles and class matches, you said you saw gunners on like one day in particular, but you didn't see them kind of all the time, or what was your gunner experience?
There was one day, the one day I saw a ton of them, and then once in a while I would see another team, and I that was actually the hardest team for me to figure out because I wasn't prepared for them at first, and Barrage is so crazy. I don't have Zeus's TMR, so like I lose a lot of
Oh, I thought you got it.
No, I'm actually at 98 shards today, so 102 more to go till I get it. But like that enables so much, and it was so hard to close them down sometimes. But the matches that I won against Gunners is when I was prepared for them, and I like marched Rain down with Snow White, and um, eventually you can't outrun a jamming thrust, right? Like
Yeah.
we're gonna like it's gonna get you. So I
Yes, it
definitely
is.
I definitely need some advice on Gunner teams, like how to take them on.
It's part of it is unit selection because like you can't help a 9 range Frederica from sharpshooting your Ildira. Like it's just gonna happen. And if the Frederica has maxed Frederica's Dream plus like a Vow of Love on the team or something for the attack, it's gonna be extremely difficult to live that. Locke was doing a lot of tests where he got his Ildira to finally live a Sid Crush Armor from like a over 1,000 damage, 1,000 attack Sid, but to do that, it took sacrificing a lot of other things that might hurt his other matchups. So he ended up kind of getting off of that idea and going like a little like somewhat enough to like live I think a Frederica, but he couldn't live the Sid anymore kind of thing. So like those trade-offs matter, and like you can build to beat missile. Don't get me wrong. I think someone said there was a 88% missile resistant Victora they played against their double gunner team. They just couldn't do anything. So like you can go that extreme, but the main thing is like making sure you don't lose all your other matchups. And so gunners are a lot more about, I think playing bruiser teams is excellent, especially if you want to just have across the board, because they can bleed them out. So like Frederica's use bells, Lucia buffs, Frederica barrages. If you can live that barrage, and then if they have quicken, you can live the quicken barrage, you're golden. Because now you can just heal up or support or whatever, run away and kite until they run out of AP, and then you go at them. And that's generally how you have to handle gunners if you don't have like an anti-gunner team built. But if you're like 3 carries and you don't have missile resistance, like you're just kind of a bad time. That's just kind of how it goes.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and I had Victoria, so that helped so much, especially
Yeah,
against Lucia. So, so overall, I think I had fun. I think the first time I played against them, the first couple times, I was fuming. I was like, how am I going to beat this? And then it got better again with time. Practice. It's all going to come
and now,
together.
was that with the same team too?
Yeah, that was with the same team. I kept messing with my VCs depending on what I played last, because you're totally going to come up against that team again. So
Right. That is the good thing about what you were saying though with the Death Machine Odin combo. Like it's gonna cover across the board. And while I have tested that, like if you do 50% slash resistance and 20 unit resistance from Odin, it's slightly less reduction than just 70% slash. I don't know why, because they're added in the same part of the formula and they should count the same, but it's not identical. I still haven't gotten to the bottom of that. It's not quite like you go multiply the first, then multiply the second, though. It's not that extreme of a difference. So Odin and Death Machine aren't identical to having 20 resistance across the board, but it's close enough that you can consider it like that. Like if you have 80% slash in Odin, you're taking like less than 100 damage probably. But
yeah, good. I need that. I need all the help I can get. Because I slept on my VCs, honestly. Like in this game, I need to work on my VCs a lot more. I have a lot of 2 stars, and then my Fenrir and my Death Machine are 3 stars, and then otherwise like everything's 2 stars. So
now, have you made the similar shift that like a lot of us have been talking about, where it's like you kind of care a little less about units now, and you're kind of more about the VCs? Or are you still kind of
yeah,
hyped for a bunch of upcoming units, and you're like, I just want it all?
I'm gonna get Cecil. Like Cecil is a must. I have to get him. I'm the Mysidia Gaming, so he's gonna be my next target. But other
Okay.
than that, I think after that, I'm gonna go for cards. I think for sure. Um, I wish I could have got Igaion, but I just pulled Howlet, so
Ooh, that sucks too, because it's so good for Howlet. It's such a
I know.
crazy like slash bonus. Like people are saying it's not that great. I don't know if you've seen Rune Knight damage, but the whole slash resistance penetration thing on Ryryu is insane. So adding more of that on a vision card and just slapping it on Howlet is gonna make him hit like Ryryu. Uh, yeah, it's kind of good, but at the same time, I don't think it's mandatory either. Like it is a purely
Yeah.
offensive vision card. Like there's no like half and half. Like Odin is half and half, right? Maneater bestowed, defensive party. You have like Solidus card as offensive bestowed, defensive party. So if I go like all one, I tend to go all defense just because that's how I like to play. But it's definitely a good card. But understandable. So actually, something we didn't touch on in the beginning of this, which I normally try to. I'm not asking for your credit card statement, but like, what would you classify yourself as in terms of like spending level too? Like, where's this perspective coming from?
Yeah, so I guess I don't really know for sure, but I guess I would call myself a minnow. Um, what I did,
Are you Roy rank 6?
I think I'm 5.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, that's like minnow tier
So
2.
what I did was I bought. I told myself I'm going to spend $10 a month on this game, and that's like I'm playing an MMO. It's very similar feel for
Right.
me. playing an MMO, and I started buying those 30 large energy packs once per month. And
Hmm.
then when the new bundle came out, the 3K free Visior, but you get it once per day,
Oh yeah.
100. Yeah. So I started buying that instead every month. So that's what I get. And then when I pull a featured unit, with the exception of Hallett this time, because they gave us so many shards, I usually do the $1 a day thing for 5 shards,
Hmm.
and then you get a couple energy pots. Like I buy some energy pots or whatever. It's like a
Right.
dollar 39 Canadian. Um, so I've done that, and then once for my birthday it was FFT too.
Mhm.
So I did the 5K plus 5K package, and that was the biggest purchase I did. That's like $109 Canadian. So,
That's
um,
insane.
so it's up
Now,
there.
is that like does 109 Canadian when you're in Canada buy the same thing the $80 would buy in America with that money? Like, do you know? Like, how does that?
Yeah, I wonder. Let's do like a comparison. Like, how much would a brand new like console video game be in America? Like, what's that price at?
Oh well, there's an argument about why it's going up, but it
Yeah.
typically be like $60.
Okay, yeah. So for us, it would be like 79.99 for like a brand new PS4 game
Okay, so it is
in
just scaled
Canada.
up. Yeah.
Yeah, so everything's a little more expensive. Although apparently, with the recent election results, the Canadian dollar is going up.
Oh yeah.
It must be like projected that we'll do better business or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
Um,
whatever. But
probably.
that's interesting. Okay, yeah, because I hear I know like Australia gets boned in
Hmm.
a lot of these games too. There's another game I've been trying out. The combat's fantastic, but there's a little too much fan service for me. But whatever. Another gotcha game. But like, there's an Australian content creator that's like the main guy for it that I found, and he like I saw his like pack prices. I was like, oh. Oh,
Yeah,
it was so much higher, and they don't get like more or anything. It's just the same stuff for what seems like way more. It's crazy.
yeah.
But
But
okay,
you know
yeah.
what?
What's that?
When you spend, sorry, I keep cutting you off.
Oh no, you're good.
When
I
you
talk a lot.
spend enough time playing the game like this, and like the amount that I'm getting out of it, I feel pretty happy to support the developers. I feel happy to invest in the game, and so I'm feeling pretty good. And I think I'm going to do another 5K plus 5K when FF4 comes.
Hmm.
Especially if there's a paid Cecil banner, then I'll probably do it for sure. Yeah.
Seems good. Seems good. Join the Royal Rank 6 and up club. No, honestly, Royal Rank 6 is pretty game changing though. Like, you get double shards, so or you can get double shards for a singular unit.
Oh,
That's the one where you can do the reset, the 50 viz to get 2 more hard quests for a unit.
that's good to
So
know.
yeah. So like, if you're doing like Gilgamesh or Ruin Stern, you can do like 4 of Howlet, for example, 4 of Victora. I know you have a max, but just examples. And then you can do like 2 Gilgamesh or 2 Ruin Stern a day. Because you can only do one, but you can reset to get a second. So honestly, that's helped a lot. I mean, I'm 10, so I get 6 a day, but like that helps a lot for maxing out units quicker. I mean, it's twice as much for half the price.
That's huge. I really want that now.
Yeah. And just a little push. Come to the
Uh,
dark side. Join the hack club.
can I ask you real quick what the game is that you're playing, that you're trying out?
uh yeah, so it's called Illusion Connect.
Yes. Okay. Okay. I thought so. Um,
The combat is fantastic. The team building is fantastic. The character upkeep is cringy as fuck, but but the game is very well made. It's very like polished. It seems.
so I see ads for that everywhere, and then I watched a couple FG 3000 videos on it,
Hmm.
and the combat looked so cool. Like I honestly love the way that it looks, and the it looks pretty deep. So I finally downloaded it, and I was super. I don't play those types of games with a fan service,
Yeah.
and I played a couple of missions. I'm like, oh, this is really cool. And then as soon as they like took me to the house,
The
and they're like,
house.
hey, you got a new piece of furniture. I'm like, nope, out, nope,
Well,
nope,
to be fair,
not
you don't
gonna
have to
do
do a
it.
whole lot with those, but yeah, I put them in the default spot. They're just in a row.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, there's more to it too, but I'm not gonna get into all that. But
yeah, that's another
yeah,
thing.
it's a whole nother podcast. But very good game, very good combat, very good
Mhm.
systems, interesting upkeep of your characters. But anyway, back to War of the Visions.
Yeah. So I will say that that I'm really excited to to like try more units out in live PvP. So like for example, I started building Ramza based off of your team that you were doing like an Ultima guaranteed hit team. So I'm
The
like, oh, I'm gonna
Ramza
try
bomb.
that out.
Yeah.
And then I tried that in auto PvP as well, and I targeted Venera teams, and it was super fun. But I need some better vision cards to get his Ultima up to as strong as it needs to be to one shot Veneras.
Yeah.
But even my latest pick for a unit that I wanted was Skull, and I didn't get Skull because the universe is cruel and unfair to people. Um, I got Howlet, which is objectively way better, but I wanted Skull because I'm like guaranteed hit with the Battle Mage. He has Quicken, and I want to try using Quicken, and I only really have
Not at the same
Phoebe.
time, but yeah.
Yeah, so like not at the same time, but just like he was going to add two pieces, and
Hmm.
those pieces I was thinking of adding them specifically for live PvP. So like
Right.
that's kind of cool that like this part of the game that I was afraid to try is now like shaping my decision making. So that's neat.
Yeah, that's actually something I also want. Man, it's like you have my itinerary, like mental itinerary in your head already. Like, that was gonna be another thing I was gonna ask you towards the end was like, has it changed? Which you said it has. And we talked a little bit about the vision cards, but it's interesting to see when people get really into PvP, like how that focus does shift as long as you enjoy it. To like, maybe I don't need the extra waifu, and maybe I can invest in this vision card that's gonna diversify my options for PvP instead, kind of thing. And honestly, it's actually cheaper on the Visior to max vision cards than it is to max units because it's only like 13k Viz. You just have to Whimsy farm, which you can argue that's not cheaper, but um, yeah, super cool. Are there
Yeah,
any units you've considered now to max just for a TMR? That's like the next advanced step of
yeah.
PvP is when you're like, I just want this one for the TMR. That was like me with Mastery.
So I was thinking about this because you and I again were having a conversation about guild battles, and I was copying your team for Victoria, and um, we got to this point where it was just like I don't have bells,
Hmm.
so I just can't do the same strategy as you. So I used a TMR, I used Mon's TMR to keep her back and build up more AP. But at
Hmm.
the end of the day, I was reflecting on a match because I thought it was going well, and then I was reflecting on a match, and I'm like yeah, there was a turn there where she just went up and like prodded someone with her spear. And the fact that she did that, like I glossed over it at the time. I'm like, oh, I didn't have AP. But no, that could have been a killing blow with a skill.
Yeah.
So um I do think that I need bells ASAP. It's kind of a shame because it's like you just see it everywhere. Um
Yeah. You
but
feel uncreative. You feel like you're being too
yeah.
meta and like it's not your idea. But yeah, it's unfortunate that it exists, honestly.
Yeah, but
But
then like a unit. See, that's the thing though. In live PvP, my Victoria was set because I used the like purify, or I used something like
mm,
you'd have time to naturally build up some AP, which is kind of cool. Like
right.
dragon standard and then purify, and then you actually have a couple of turns of big skills. So that was cool. I haven't actually thought about specific TMRs that I want to get. Um, because like I have some really good ones, like Mastery is so good,
I
and then
think
Ayaka,
I think
Lunaverve.
Mastery's probably the number one that people who do PvP are like, all right, I'll max her because the TMR
Mhm,
is just so good. I think my kill fade heals for 4k with it. Like in addition to the shield. Like if you ever need like an instant heal like that, like turn someone to a calculator, point blank, and you gotta be right next to
mhm.
them. But like it's still very effective. I typically use the turn one, but some matchups you can adjust a little depending on positioning and all that. Um, Other ones that I would say, Ayaka, people are just gonna max anyway. I don't really think that's necessarily one that's for the TMR. But Kitone was one that I fast tracked because of her TMR. Like I wanted to use her anyway because I finally got my evade cards like up to speed. But like her TMR giving basically anybody move +1 and jump 1 is incredible. I don't know. You said you listened to the podcast, so you know Daniel Boone finished third place, right?
Yeah.
So he used the entire time. I mean, I think he switched a couple TMRs around throughout it, so it might have not been every game, but a majority of his games were played with a Grace that had Kitone's TMR. So Grace would be able to just run over that middle and support anybody. She could also run over the middle, mana strike people on Lancer sub and just take their AP bar. She could run up to an evade unit and heal. She could run out of like range if she was in danger. it completely changed the way he got to play that team because Grace could just go over walls and stuff. So I think that's another one that if people are kind of like on the fence about Katone, the TMR could definitely put you over the edge.
So that's cool because I actually do have her, but I haven't built her yet. So maybe I'll have to take another look at that. And I know it has auto PvP implications as well, right? So
Hmm.
um,
I mean, it has
I think
evade and agility. Like it's a
mhm.
good TMR anyway, but then you add on that ability used well, and it's fantastic.
The one that I'm close to getting is Howlet. So that one's actually kind of interesting as well. I'm definitely excited to try that, but I'm waiting to let the login shards max him. So that's going to be a little while longer, but that's definitely one that's on my radar. But another thing that I've started thinking about more are specials, or limit breaks or whatever.
Oh, okay, yep.
Yeah, so limit breaks, I was just leveling them based on like my favorite units. So Ramza Ultima is maxed, and
Hmm.
then Delita is about 3,000 experience from maxing his, and you don't get anything besides damage from his, which is fine because I use it a
Yeah.
lot anyway, and the silence is really good. But now there's not even a question who I'm going to do next. It's Ildira. I need to get her limit
Number
break.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So like that's a huge, huge priority for me just to get hers leveled up. Is there like a level where you think it's like a make or break, like it's more effective or it becomes much more usable?
Ildira's
Yeah. Or does
20.
that 20? It has to be
um,
max or
so it's weird. Like hers is so affected by the leveling because of the way it is. Like you're adding the CT, you need that to be as high as possible because like the plays to make you take double turns usually involve moving and not taking an action, or taking action and not moving, so that you retain 20 of your CT because she gives 60. So if you have like a say a 90 agility unit, that's three clock cycles before they get to 40, which then the plus 60 puts them over 100. Um, so it's pretty important. I think for most LBs though, I think 12 is halfway. Like so if I think it's for like zombie transformation on Ryryu's, I think you get to 15% health at 12. I don't remember where I saw this calculator. But I saw a resource somewhere where you could like actually change the levels of the TMRs that would show you the ability, like where like the breakpoints are. If I can find that before I post the podcast, I'll put a link below to whatever this resource was I was using. I don't know if it was, I don't think it was Wattv Calc, but there was a resource. But anyway, I think it 10 to 12 is where I try to get most of the ones I care about. And I've only maxed 3 at this point. Or no, wait, how many have I maxed?
max?
I also was just talking about TMRs, not instead of LBs, but I think they're on the same curve.
Yeah.
Let's see, LBs. I've maxed Eldira. Is that it? I actually don't have a lot of LBs maxed.
What about like Cosmo Plume or like Rain? The Rain's got the like
They're
fire.
like
It's called the Fire
10,
Plume.
15, 12. They're all over the place. I like Ryru is the
Yeah.
next one I'm doing, and Fryevia's is like 18, I think, because her AP consumption is really important. But going back to what you're saying, yes, I agree. Getting the LBs up that actually scale their additional effects and not just their damage, I think is way more important. Like Ryu actually gets increased poison ticks, so it goes from I think 12% to 25% at max. So imagine that just ticking for a quarter of your health bar every chunk, like pretty insane.
Yeah. Yeah. So what about Ultima? Is Ultima one that you have?
Ultima is 7.
Oh, okay.
So when I wasn't like doing as much damage as the guy, Sunshine, the dog, I always shout him out. He was his team. He was just it's like 6k 7k people. I'm like, where is this damage coming from? I have more magic than you. And then I realized that his multiplier and his ultimate is just so much higher than mine that's where like all this extra damage is coming from. So yeah, mine wasn't even like full potential. Like I just completely forgot that was even a level thing I had to check when I was using those teams. You said yours is max though.
Mine's max, but in auto PvP to get Ramza to use it right away when that Venera comes over the middle, or wherever she's coming, I need to use Dario's TMR. So I can't get as much magic stacked as I can if I used my +5. Oh my gosh, the sword that we just
Ne-
all made.
Negron. Oh, Lohengrin.
Yeah, Lohengrin, yeah. So that's kind of a shame, but and then you lose all the slash attack too. Um,
Sure.
but that acquired AP up is really nice. He just uses shout, and then he's off to the races.
Really, it's that much?
Yeah, once he uses shout once with that Dario TMR, he's instantly ready to use Ultima. So
What
that's
esper do you
gonna
use on him?
with Ramza, I am using Diabolos to get stack more magic if I can. To
And
get
magic
that
attack, yeah.
yeah, so got to get that
Interesting.
magic attack.
Because I'm looking at it's 30% additional AP, but actually the Dario TMR is the same magic as a magic Nagnarok.
Yes, it is. Yeah,
So
yeah. So it's
that's
not
actually
bad.
super interesting. For Ultima builds, it's actually the same. Obviously you don't have like Salir TMR or something, but
Yeah.
that's definitely relevant. The ones we do though, we Rams the bomb with the Gilgamesh TMR. Like, that's the like busted part of it, but it's definitely not 100% necessary, especially if you have the full everything else built. Because that 150% magic is just really stupid.
Yeah, yeah.
Actually, let's look at the index here on WotviCalc.
Oh, hey.
I forget how much magic Ramza actually has. Oh, actually, I have to use the unit builder to see his base. Whoops! I almost just fell into the same trap I said that I warned everybody else about. That is not base. Sorry.
So while he's looking it up, if you're at home and you didn't get Ramza, well, you should probably break the bank next time FFT comes around because he's so good. He's
He's
just
very versatile. He has a lot of
yeah.
tools. 239 magic, so he gets 239 plus a half is 240, 120, 119. So yeah, he's got like plus 350 magic or something from that. So it's
Oh my gosh.
pretty insane.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it is. That's like a Ryu using his drain evocation, but it's
Yeah,
only for one turn. But that's what the whole double quicken thing's for. You the first turn he shouts, gets quicken, moves up Gilgamesh TMR, gets quicken again, moves up Ultimas, and that's the team. If it doesn't work, you lose, or you have to really pivot.
that drain evocation does way more damage than I thought it was going to.
It's
Like
only
when
like a 60% multiplier too. It's not
I
high.
know. Like you read the skill and you're like, okay, it's just meant to set up his next attack, but like on the right target, it does an insane amount of damage.
Like for Howlet, have you hit a kill fade with it yet?
Yeah, yeah, I hit kill phase for like 4K, 5K depending on the skill. Like it's
Oh no, I meant for
crazy.
Drain Evo. What do you hit it with?
Oh, then it's like more like 2K,
Sure.
2.5, something like that.
Two.
Yeah.
That's still good though. Like
Yeah, it's
Ryu on a
crazy.
non-weak unit usually hits for like 1k, 1.1, depending on the target. Like if he hits a wall, it's like 1.1.
Yeah, I was stacking a lot of stuff for those fights too. I've been doing a lot of fun double jamming thrust with the rain, and then you have Ildira with her water gun. It's like, hey, there's a giant cliff in the middle of this map. It doesn't matter because I can
Yeah, just
shoot
you
through
just
it.
lay it across. Yeah, it's like boom, curtain.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, man. What was the other one? What have you hit? Have you hit damage cap on anybody yet with the hazard slash on like an earth unit or anything?
No, I haven't. But he doesn't use it that much just because of the way the maps are right now.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, like I haven't gone to that position yet. But it's so strong in farming. It's really cool. I can't wait. And he's only at level 89, right? Like I only have him at
Oh,
89
true. Yeah.
um, with the Lohengrin and then some other stuff. So we'll see when he gets maxed how much he can do.
Yeah, that Lohengrin is such an insane item.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
the 15, obviously it's meant for like rune knights because it has the slash bonus, not like a magic attack or something. But like it's gonna be good on all of the spell blades too. Like 162 magic or whatever is just oof, it's such a buff. Like it's 50 more than the Ragnarok, but that's pretty significant when you look at like Freyevia heals or Howlet damage or something. Every bit counts there.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's going to be great on Ramza, and it's going to be good on that new light Ramza light MR unit that we got, Mary Alley or whatever.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, she's a
She
mini.
definitely seems like an interesting unit. Did you pull her?
I did, but I'm not going to build her because I have Ramza. I
Okay,
know that
fair.
they're not really equal. Like they do different things, but I like that they made her like so they have Dario and you have Ramza, and she's kind of like somewhere in the middle of them
Hmm.
with like a ton of utility because she's got calculator, and I thought that was pretty neat. Um, They didn't
So,
shaft her on her magic stat like too hard.
oh really?
Well, like just relative that to that she's a spellblade, and you look at like Dario, and Dario's more of a tank, but she has magic sub jobs, so like she's not bad.
So fun fact, I just looked at her on the index here. She obviously this is with board, no passives, but like other board and stuff. She's actually at 255, which is like 7 less than Rain and like
Yeah,
13 less than Ramses. So like she's in that realm for sure.
hmm
Somehow has more than Margaret. Margaret gets the passive though. But that's actually pretty insane. I didn't realize that she had such a high magic stat. That's cool.
yeah, yeah.
I'll be curious to
Relative
see
to
her in
her.
PvP.
Well, and I know that like I know Cabbage is really fond of her, but I've also had people comment on my videos saying like, oh, in JP, like people have put her with a Lohengrin and all this other stuff, and they've gotten like really high damage. So she just seems like a really good unit to build for someone that doesn't have that part of their account filled yet. Like if you don't have any spellblades,
Mhm.
then she's a really strong MR. It seems like.
I think she's deceptive too because we talked about this last cast, but she does have really low agility. I think she has like 49 base. It's pretty bad. But she has almost 3,000 health after like all is said and done before her passives. Apparently she has a respectable magic stat, and she has the calculator sub job, which has the disable, the giant AoE plume size disable. That's like if they're on the same height as you, it's some stupid high percent to hit. She has the CT average, which with her could be really interesting. Like averaging with your own units to like give them another turn because she's so slow, kind of thing. Or and then yeah, I think that's how it would work. But then she has like Banishka from like downtown with this like crazy eye magic stat, and then she can just go like resist magic and like walk into magic teams and not care. So she's definitely, or I guess it's Magic Shield, whatever the solo one is, not the AOE one. If she's on sub arithmetician, but it seems like a cool unit for sure. I don't know that I would
Any
use her,
light
but
unit too. Like anytime you have a light unit,
mhm.
you're gonna see so many dark units. Like she can get that. Like her stats might be lower, but then she gets that 1.25 multiplier, and then
Yeah,
like that's
she has a couple issues with like dexterity and luck for like the
yeah.
accuracy side of it, but like yeah, if you connect to the dark unit, they're gonna be hurting. So kind of a more fun question for you specifically. I know we glossed over it earlier. You're a fan of the Calum squad.
Yep.
And I know we've talked about before where you want to make a team of like the Calum units. So I have two questions. One of them is new because of some JP updates, but the first one is what 3 units like have you been thinking about using for that team, and like how would you integrate them together
So
in a live PvP context?
oh, from a live PvP, oh, that's really tricky. Because I originally
Because you
had
have to
thought
do
that
it. You have to do
yeah,
it.
I was gonna do. I actually did a little bit of auto with Mont, um, and Ramada and Lilith, the
Mhm.
MRs, and I actually built Ramada as a magic tank,
Okay.
with Spellblade. 'Cause she gets magic barrier, and that's the most important thing. Uh, and then yeah, so I built her like that, and I unfortunately started testing them at the end of my week, so the teams were just too strong for them. But then for live PvP, I know you've talked a lot about Balo, and Balo's going to get the update in Japan. So I mean, like clearly, and Liarte as well.
I was
So
gonna
those are
ask you. That was
definitely.
my second question. If you think Balo and Liarta are gonna be like maybe higher on your list now because of the 120 EX jobs.
I think they're going to have to be, for sure. I haven't actually put the rainbow rocks into them yet, unfortunately. But I just maxed Ramada, so she's 99, or she's on her way to
Nice,
99.
nice.
I got her TMR, and I think I'd have to do that. And here's the thing. So I've worked with Lilith a lot, and I think Lilith has a lot going for her, but she
Mhm.
has the same. She's even worse off than Victoria in that her AP generation is just so bad. She
Yeah.
needs the bells. Like if there was ever a unit that needed bells, it's her. So I don't think I can use her. Although again, live PvP is different. You know, I could Luna Verve with somebody and then like Purify with Lilith, and then maybe I'll be in a better position. But in terms of auto, she's very hard to use. But she just gets that. She gets like okay bruisery stats. She actually has like I think she has good HP.
Mhm.
Um, but then it's just if she can't use skills, if she can't use sharpshoot, then yeah, she's not gonna work out.
Yeah, it's interesting because she does get that ranger sub, which is super important on like if you're a physical damage unit with a ranger sub, you have access to sharpshoot and you have reflex. Like they're
Yes.
two
Yeah.
insane tools available to you that I think like that's why I love using Mish. So one of the question I had earlier that I guess we can come back to now is like other comps using low rarities. You were saying like who cares, just go play matches kind of thing. I got to a point where I did that with like I was doing teams of like Phoebe, Zaza, and Mish, and like just going in there and trying to beat people. It was really fun because you quicken Mish and he does really stupid things. I don't know how much you've seen or like heard of me describing what he does, but the whole 750 cast time down is so fun.
That's
Um, but him having reflex, there have been some games where like these units that are gonna hit him for like 5,000 damage, like he just has no defenses. They're like Miranda or something that's gonna just pop him. And he's just like dodge, cool, reflex, and you got like 3 in a row. I was like, oh my god, flare, just like killing people.
yeah.
Um,
I wish that Ramada had some like magic on her TMR or something, because it would be completely irrelevant for anybody else that uses a spear, but then it would
mhm.
play into her spellblade a little bit.
Oh, that's
Uh,
true. There's no spear that gives like a lot of magic, is there?
we have the water ring now, so that's kind of interesting.
Okay, because that'll give
The,
him
the
80
whatever it's called, that will help.
tide
But
ring or
Tide
something.
ring or something, yeah,
Yeah.
Tide Pod ring, yeah, yeah. So I don't know, like I don't know what I'm gonna do with the Calum team. I wanted to try to build Mont more aggressively because he's got some cool like skills. He's got like the tackle is a different damage type, right? And he has he has his own jamming. I think
Jamming edge, I believe it's called.
jamming edge. Like he's got some cool stuff. He
That's
actually has
just
like
like
a really cool
a
like kit
warrior
of
thing.
skills. And the killer blade is actually really interesting. You do
Killer blade
damage and then
hurts.
man killer.
Well,
Like
no, it's man killer on that hit.
right, yes, yeah, okay.
So it's a
And it's got
205 multiplier with 25% man eater added. It's a massive skill. That's what the guy who uses Balo in live PvP, he uses him with like a Nagrok +5 assault, whatever. He's got bells and a ribbon, and he runs in there with Odin with 25 man eater. He's got the earth attack from the like card or whatever, and he just runs up and just killer blades people. He one shot my Gilgamesh.
wow,
So
that's insane.
I didn't have the armor of discontinuity up because I didn't respect his damage. I was just like, I'm okay where I am, and he's just like hit you for 4K. I'm like, oh, okay. So, but yes, you're right. Body slam is strike, which I actually didn't know. That's interesting. It makes sense because you're like shoulder checking somebody, but that's kind of cool. Oh, I didn't know he had that.
Yeah, yeah. I wish. So I'm actually really excited for his boost with the EX job, because I think if he gets some more strength or some more attack, then maybe there's some cool new fun bruiser Mont build that you could try out.
Yeah, it looks
But
like you'd have to have like a good TMR on him for AP because he has discipline and treatment, and that's it. And treatment's
yeah,
garbage. And then discipline's good, but it's only 15 TP, so you're getting like what 7 or 8 AP. I think it
yeah.
rounds down, so 7. Uh, so that's rough. But like if you're on Paladin sub job, you get the
Immortal
what's it called?
Spirit for
Immortal
sure.
Spirit, yeah, for
Yeah,
29. Divine Grace for 20. Sentinel for 20 is probably the more relevant one. Um, yeah, he is an interesting unit though. He does have cool skills. I've seen another one, same guy actually. He builds all these like BS teams, but he does well with them. Uh, where it's Mustadio, Mont, and Ryryu. So then he Ryryu gives Earth attack across the team. Mustadio like chain, and then he throws a stone at you and ends the chain and just like nukes for like almost 2K. Because on moves that have those low multipliers, things like man eater and stuff get way amplified. Or that you see more of an impact from them. So you see some really cool
interesting.
stuff from that. Because Musadio is triple hit, so you're hitting on a 4 times Earth missile chain. So
That's awesome. I wish well, I mean, I built my Mustadio to 89, and I'm
mhm.
happy with him for like PVE, but I kind of wish I had gone 99 for
He is
uh,
sleeper busted in PvP. The status
yeah,
effects are so dumb. Like they're often like 60 something percent chances. There's no reason like an immobilize or disable should be like 60 some odd percent on an average unit without
no,
resist. It's so silly. Um and one other thing I'll say about Balo is like I would hold off until we get the MR rocks for him. Like don't spend your rainbows on him now, especially because he kind of requires the evade cards to be
Yeah.
pretty pumped up there for him to like make use of his evasion. But maybe you could build him tanky though. Like you could do the Odin, Death Machine, Bruiser, Balo.
Yeah. I'll have to try it. I mean, I'm excited. I'm excited to get everybody maxed, and then, and what about like, so I know that like I was from the index that all these ranger main jobs have pretty crazy high dexterity, and I wonder if there's something there with like, what are you gonna do with Learte? Like, what's her main skill? Because she has reflex and she has your ranger abilities, but like, what else can she really do? Um,
Fun fact: second place for dexterity after accounting for everything is Uni.
yeah, yeah, I saw that.
What? I had no idea. I knew Mustadio was up there, like for dexterity. Lucia, Frederica, obviously. That's crazy. Um, but yeah, the Rangers get access to the Ranger lore. I think it is, or one of them gives really good accuracy on the passives, which is where they get their like super impact from. That's nutty though. I had no idea about that. Oh, that's really cool. I do like the
Yeah,
table that it shows the evade and accuracy up from like master abilities and stuff.
yeah, that's really handy for sure to have all that. I'm psyched about this index, man. It's gonna make my job because I put all together all my graphics and stuff,
Yeah.
and like that's gonna just make it way faster for me to do it this way. I just have to have disclaimers about where these stats are from
Right.
and what they are, what they include. Because I don't actually usually include the board percentage stat. I usually mention it, but don't include it in my graphics.
Right, right. Well, do you have any
Mm.
other thoughts you want to share about your live PvP experiences, or any other things you kind of have had in your mind, but
Mm.
you kind of glanced past, but you want to throw out there now?
I just want to have one more message out there to anyone that's watching is that if you haven't tried live PvP yet, give it a try because like I feel like I'm honestly like a lot like I'm like a lot of you out there that are terrified of that live competition aspect and you have like some fears around it, but they go away quickly, you get over it quickly, and it's so much fun. Like it's obviously if you've listened to this whole episode, then you know that I'm enjoying it. So just take a dive into the deep end and give it a whirl.
Absolutely. Well said. Appreciate that. Well, thank you for joining us, or well, me this week, on Let's Talk Tactics. Tell everybody where they can find you. I'll have a link to your stuff, of course, in the description below. But if you want to just give a little spiel about your channel and kind of what you like to do and what your goals are for that.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah. First of all, thank you so much for having me on. I'm psyched that I got to be on here. But yeah, so I'm Mysidia Gaming on YouTube, and you can check me out for Should You Pull videos every single week. I do some PvP videos, and then once in a while I do guides and unit reviews and stuff. But what I want to get into eventually too is start to do some more lore videos for the game. So that's kind of long term, but yeah, if you check me out, that's great. I appreciate it.
Definitely should. And like I said, there'll be links in the description below to find his channel. But until next time, it's been Let's Talk Tactics. I was your host, Zach Burrell, and Mysidia. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time.